Next, I want to introduce the paper which estimates the impacts of COVID-19 on global poverty. It utilized data from the World Bank Pivotal Net dataset, and the methodology is using 3 scenarios: low, medium, and high contractions of 5, 10, and 20%, and estimated impacts on the poverty headcount using the international poverty line of 1.9, 3.2, 5.5 dollars per day. This graph shows the first results as the global poverty headcount ratio will increase because of the COVID-19. Before the 2018, you can see the global poverty headcount ratio has been decreasing, but in all of the scenarios, this indicator, the global poverty head ratio, will increase, and worse in the most severe case, as the 20% hit on income, based on the 5.5 international poverty line, the headcount ratio will increase from 33.5 to 50.5, nearly 7% of increase, which means that a lot of people will slip into poverty. And this picture shows the distribution of additional number of poor by region and the contraction scenario. If you look at it based on the first 1.9 international poverty line, and also the second 3.2 international poverty line, you can see Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia are the biggest part. It counts for 80% of the total additional numbers of poor. But if you look at the 5.5 international poverty line, then the biggest part of additional number of poor comes from East Asia and the Pacific. The second is South Asia. And these 2 regions account for over 60% of the total numbers. So in a conclusion, COVID-19 will have a large influence, will give a huge impact on the global poverty, so that millions of people will be pushed into poverty, and especially in the region of South Asia, East Asia Pacific, and Sub-Saharan Africa. So, how to deal with the increase of poverty? As for me, I think there is no universal solutions to all of the cases in the world, but still there are some common procedures or methodologies to implement poverty alleviation programs to help the poor people. I actually get inspired from the Chinese targeted poverty alleviation project. It has 3 core steps. The first one is a current identification. It answers the question, who is the real people? So all the poverty-stricken people should be registered in the database, national database. As for the COVID-19, so each country should identify all the existing new extremely poor. Only if they find the poor, then they can implement a certain program to help the poor people. And for the second step is a current assistance. So what projects should be implemented? After in-depth analysis of the causes of poverty in poor villages and the poor hospitals, scientifically formulate assistance plans on a case by village or regional base. For the COVID-19, so we should assist the poor with targeted strategies. Although I had said there is no universal solutions actually in the long term, but in the short term, I think the physical financial support to the poor is necessary. And I noticed a lot of countries have been implemented such kind of programs, and they providing cash transfer to the poor people. And so this kind of cash programs, I mean the cash transfer should be reached to the poor quickly. For the third step is the crisis management. So how is the project's effect? It attracts poverty village and poor households to help them, ensure that poor villages and poor households received effective support and achieve poverty alleviation goals within the prescribed time. For the COVID-19, so we should timely evaluate and adjust the related policies and programs for the poor. Maybe like just in a period of 1 year or 2 years, we should evaluate the effectiveness of a certain program. Then we can decide whether we should continue or start or stop or adjust the related policies and the programs. So thank you for listening. Basically, it's that's all for my presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, very interesting presentation, maybe a little bit pessimistic. And as I said, we will not have time to ask questions after each presentation. So please write your questions in the chat. And then at the end, we are going to answer all questions.